Hello everyone, happy May 4th, or the new one I saw on Facebook is This is the May, but I'll preferably stick with May the 4th be with ya, because that's the one I knew, and, well, honestly, The Mandalorian has proven this is not the May. But, as you saw in a post on the first, I don't know if you guys are reaching my posts or not, but I binge watched the Kenobi show, like I said I would. I completely regret it, because it is a horribly written piece of shit. Yes, and I even took some notes this time around. 5 pages worth, but then again, the 5 pages are really just like 1 or 2 lines, and then an enter, tab, whatever, but yeah, the show was bad. It really felt like whoever wrote it, I don't remember who wrote it, but the director also didn't really help. And I know Ian McGuire himself was one of the executive producers of the show, but it really honestly does not feel like he was involved other than just the acting portion of it. And even some of his stuff, a lot of his scenes were just awful. But I'm going to go through the negatives first, just because I'm obviously not going to add too much more than from what I have heard from other channels. Just putting out my thoughts, and I do want to go through a short how I would fix it at the end, because that's what I said I would do. I'd watch a show and kind of do how I would fix it, even though, granted, I am not a great writer. I'm not a screenplay writer, so I wouldn't know exactly how it works. And obviously there's going to be people who disagree with me and think, well, your idea is dumb, you shouldn't do it, but hey, that's what the internet's for, right? Everyone's able to have a voice. So, right off the bat, with the movie recaps, like, this is the first and only show that has clips from the prequel trilogy, and I'm assuming it's to make us understand the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan through the years. But then they suddenly cut to the Order 66 scene again, which we haven't seen, 20 times now. We don't need to have every show to have a scene from Order 66. We know what happened. Oh, not to mention the fact that now there's warnings in some of the episodes where they do have flashbacks to Order 66, saying some of the imagery may be disturbing to some people. It's just like, when I did hear about that, I was like, wow, we're really ruled by a bunch of people who can't separate reality and fiction, because obviously bad things happen to younglings in Order 66. We know this from episode 3. So I don't think a warning should have been necessary at all. But hey, what do I know? So we get that, and then we get to the title card of Kenobi. Woo! Once again, we're stuck on the planet of Tatooine, because apparently the entire fucking galaxy revolves around Tatooine, the sand desert planet that Luke Skywalker says everyone wanted to get away from, but we can't get away from it because it's Tatooine, and filming in the desert is cheaper than anywhere else. So, introduced to the villains of the show, who honestly are not intimidating whatsoever. They're seriously like trying to make them intimidating because they have a scary looking ship. They're in all black. And the music tells you, ooh, we're the bad guys. Fear us. Like, seriously, it's literally just the music now. I cannot draw any emotion because I am being told what to fear via the music and via the shots and like how it's edited and all that and how the people are reacting. And I don't think the people of Tatooine would be reacting the way they say they would or are, because there's worse shit that happens on Tatooine in a bar than a people illegally parking their ship in the middle of a street. And then the Grand Inquisitor going, "You know who we are. You know what we do." That's not scary. Like, I think I remember hearing somewhere that the actor who did the Grand Inquisitor wanted to differentiate between his version of it and the Rebels version, but he didn't do a very good job. The Rebels version, especially the introduction, was very short and sweet. Like, he told you who he was, he didn't hesitate on attacking to Jedi, and he actually seemed more of a threat. Granted, it was a kid's show, so he wasn't actually a threat, but this is just like, I am evil because I talk like this. And of course, there's Reva, the actual main character of the Kenobi show. Again, she's like the other villains. She's not written scary. Like, she is meant to be scary and intimidating and all powerful, but she's either talking too loud, whispering like this, or like yelling at people. There's no middle ground where she's just talking like a normal person half the time. And the third brother, he just looks ridiculous. So they're hunting the Jedi, and the Jedi is able to escape because he tears down a banister that the Inquisitors run into 10 seconds later. So they can't even chase their prey properly because of a banister falling down. So their very first introduction really just ruins the characters. And I also did forget to mention, this is one of the other huge gripes I have, is the time. It's 10 years after the Revenge of the Sith. 10 years. For the characters, like for Obi-Wan and Vader, the way Vader is portrayed in this, 10 years is too much of a gap. Like, I'll get into it later, but I don't think 10 years should have been the timeline. I think it's just too much of a timeline difference. The Tatooine plotline is really pointless, just showing Obi-Wan being a depressed hermit with one nightmare. And that could have been a very good thing throughout the show, is if he had nightmare, like he had a form of PSTD where it affected him, like affected his fighting. It really did affect his way to the Force. Like, if it was more prominent in a sense. We cut to the second main character of the show, Leia. Because this is a Kenobi show. God forbid we actually have Kenobi as the main character in his own show. And they try to make her seem like Carrie Fisher's Leia. But the problem is they did it in such an over-exaggerated way that they made this Leia a brat, like an utter brat, who thinks who everyone thinks is smarter than what she actually is. And it's annoying. Like, they try to make her sound so smart because she can name 3 ships. And then she's super kind to droids, which I don't remember her being super kind to droids in the OT. She was probably more friendly with droids, but it wasn't like she was treating them like people. But now we gotta show that this Leia is a saint. A saint. But she'll talk down to anyone who dares think that she may not be. But every child is written like a brat, so it clearly shows that the writers didn't know how to write children. And then later on, there's a chase scene. Oh no, 3 people are trying to kidnap Leia because she went into the forest. And they can't catch her right away, even though they literally have her surrounded. And it's a 10-year-old. And they're fully grown adults with fully grown adult legs that can move faster than... God, it's just so bad. A person runs into small branches that anyone else can run through. Oh no, they fall over. There's a slight log. Oh no, can't get over it. And then they ruin the Organas by having them directly call Obi-Wan Kenobi a known Jedi fugitive. Directly saying he's the only one who can do it because he's the only one who... What is it? Oh yes, because Bail says only you know how important she is. We can't get the Senate or bounty hunters or cops or anyone else because only Obi-Wan knows how important she is. Despite the fact that she's a princess of a senator of a very prominent planet. Why do you need a fugitive Jedi? You know who's a fugitive. You know who's guarding Leia's brother. To leave the brother. Oh wait, it's because Leia. Oh yeah, that's right. Because Disney is now pushing this narrative. So after everyone says no, Bail himself shows up to the planet, to Obi-Wan's cave that he knows where it is, and says to Obi-Wan, "Hey, you served me before. Do it one more fight for me, for her." And then Obi-Wan goes, "Okay, I'll do it." And he goes to the exact spot where he buried the lightsabers in the middle of a desert after 10 years. Who the fuck would remember where you buried a box, a small box, in the middle of a desert with shifting sands and wind blowing all the time? Unless there was some sort of tracking device in there and that scene was cut out, I don't care how good your memory is, you're not going to remember in the middle of a desert after 10 years where a tiny box is going to be held. It's just so poorly written because this is just the first episode. Like, I'm giving a really short review of it, but it's just so bad. Like, the characters of Reva, she is such a tryhard. Like, she's trying so hard to be like, the actress is trying so hard to be intimidating and scary. And again, that's either her yelling at people or whispering in their face. And it's just like, what the fuck are you saying? I can't hear you. The only time she's seen semi-scary is when someone was saying, the Empire has no president out here. We're under the protection of the Huts. And she goes over and chops off her hand. That's pretty much the only time she's ever intimidating. But again, all the music and all the background actors are telling you these are scary people because we can't look them in the eyes. We must look down. Despite the fact that we don't know anything about the Jedi. We could just say, hey, we don't know what happened to the Jedi. We didn't know there was a Jedi here. You can interrogate us if you want, but we can't tell you anything because we don't know anything. And I was watching this through my TV, and if I remember to put pictures up, which I kind of hope I do / don't, because, God, I'm so lazy. But when I was looking at my computer screen, everything is just so dark. It's either super dark or super bright. Like the lightsabers, they literally look like those Hasbro cheap lightsabers you put AA batteries in. Like, they're just overly bright for no reason, especially in contrast to how dark the night scenes are. Like, it's just, I can't see a thing. Oh my God, there's a beam of light. I can't see anything. I just don't get it. Like, whose decision was that to undersaturate and then oversaturate everything like that? Like, just meet the middle ground. I know you're not. I know you're Disney, but you don't. You. I know you're just Disney, but you have Disney money to make things look good. But then again, they would probably shat this out so quickly. Second episode doesn't really get any better. He's literally in Jedi attire, like, not in the tunic and stuff, but he pretty much is in a Jedi robe with a Jedi tunic on. He even has his lightsaber out where the cloak blows open for a quick second, and everyone goes, hey, look, there's a lightsaber on his left hip. He's a Jedi. But they're trying to say he's also cut himself off from the Force, and then he barely is able to use it in this episode to save Leia because she sees a wanted poster, or holo, whatever you want to call it, of Obi-Wan, and goes, and kind of realizes, oh, you're the reason I was kidnapped. I'm going to run away again. And there's another chase. There's another chase where a 10-year-old girl is able to outrun a fully grown adult. And there's even a scene where he catches her, but then, thanks to editing, the overhead shot shows she runs around him, and he can't catch her again. Why? Who the hell writes action scenes like this? And then they were being attacked by lasers, and Reva, who stupidly, not only is she defying the Grand Inquisitor, her pretty much her direct supervisor, she's stripped of her rank because of her actions trying to draw Kenobi out, because she has this hate boner for him. But she kidnaps a senator's daughter, and the Grand Inquisitor finds out and is like, you didn't tell me? Guess what? You're fucked. You're no longer one of us. But I don't even want to repeat exactly what it says because it's so bad. He should have taken her lightsaber at that point. But she instead sends out a message saying, hey, any bounty hunter that gets this guy, I will reward you. And of course, every bounty hunter on this backwater planet is like, oh, we're going to get him. Even though he's a Jedi, we're going to get him. And Leia and Obi-Wan are on the run on the rooftops, and there's a small shootout because Obi-Wan, despite the fact that he has his lightsaber, decides he's not going to use it to deflect the laser bolts. Reva sees this and begins the most unimpressive parkour I've ever seen. Like, I don't understand parkour. I think it looks cool when it's cinematically shot. However, when you're doing it in situations like this where you can literally just run in a straight line, parkour parkour does not make you look badass. She literally, there's one point she literally, I gotta stop using literally, she decides to not go straight right past an air vent or AC unit. So she goes to the left, flips onto a wall, and flips off the wall again. Like, you could just run straight forward. She then pushes down basically a pipe, and decides at the last half of it, she's just going to backflip right off of it. Okay, you could just ran right off, but sure. She uses her arms to push herself forward after throwing her legs in front of her. She flips over stuff. And then she wall jumps down the wall going, It literally, like, again, they are trying to write her as a badass. They're trying to make her a badass. They fail at making her a badass. She just is a tryhard. And then a very, very tense moment where Reva has Obi-Wan and Leia cornered in a warehouse. And she does this. Obi-Wan, I know you're here, Obi-Wan. Like, that's not fucking scary. It's not intimidating. You cannot take another trope from, like, horror movies, apply it to this series, and say, oh, yes, we're gonna make you feel so much tension with this. Because I heard that, and I couldn't tell if I was going to start laughing or crying because of how bad it was. She even has her lightsaber out, and again, because of the saturation, it doesn't look intimidating. And this is the point where she reveals that she knows Anakin is Darth Vader. Somehow she knows Anakin is Darth Vader. Where literally in comics, the new ones too, I believe, Vader kills anyone who knows that secret. So there's, like, I don't know, the Emperor, Yoda, and Obi-Wan are supposed to be the only ones who know this. We know Vader's not going to go against the Emperor, doesn't know where Yoda is, and technically doesn't know where Obi-Wan is. So I don't know how Reva found this out. They never explained it in this series. Or at least they think they did with episode 5. But again, it wasn't, like, explained. Like, I'll get that later, but I don't get how she knew that Vader is Anakin. And Obi-Wan seems shocked at this revelation that somehow Anakin lived, despite the fact that he left him alive on Mustafar. He didn't see the job through that he was sent to do. It's like the writers didn't actually see that scene. Anakin, yeah, Obi-Wan knew Anakin survived the fires. So why would he be shocked to find out that that Anakin is still alive? I should probably stop calling him Anakin. He's not Anakin at this point. He's Darth Vader, but whatever. But yeah, it's just it seems like every show now is writing for them, like, their own standalone show. Like, they're not including what came before, which is ridiculous. Especially in the next episode, where this mole man who's giving them a ride sees that they're a little fishy. Like, he says that they're a little fishy because he never seen them before, and their Obi-Wan and Leia's cover story keeps changing. And the stormtroopers are trying to figure it out, and they get attacked. And the mole man is like, "Oh my god! I'm sorry. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved." And Obi-Wan takes him as a hostage. Not only a hostage, but a bullet, a meat shield, because there's a stormtrooper in the tower that somehow Obi-Wan can't magically shoot off until he has this meat bag in his hands. Obi-Wan would not take a fucking hostage like that. He ruins the character. Like, they did so much damage to this character. And go, yeah, no, this is all canon. This is what he would do. This is totally Obi-Wan. Like, Obi-Wan is among the last of the old school Jedi from the old T. I mean, then there's Yoda, obviously. But he wouldn't put a living creature in that kind of danger. Not on purpose. Like, I don't remember every little detail about the Clone Wars series, but even then, I don't think he ever did. And then the infamous gate scene. The laser gate, because, you know, there's no room for them to walk around the gate. And I've seen people going, oh, well, what would be easier? For them to just go through the gate when it's open or walk around the gate? And it's just like, well, it wouldn't be easier to walk around because, one, he's got to flip the switch and the switch doesn't work. So he has to shoot it. He would have saved, like, a little bit of time to just go around. So the set didn't even look good. Like, it literally just looked like, okay, put his box here, put a box over there. Done. And we're introduced to the young Rebel Alliance, or the start of it, with this spy code, Taya, I forget her name, but she's an Imperial officer, or not exactly sure what she is at the end of it, but she saves Obi-Wan and Leia from being executed and tells them, hey, I got a way off of the planet for you because we were told you were coming and we smuggled Jedi all the time through this planet. Here, come to our super secret room where people, or past Jedi, because apparently Jedi come through here all the time, have written, I was here on the walls. Yeah, the Jedi who are trying to hide and stay hidden pretty much did a Jedi XYZ Jedi was here in a super secret room where they're supposed to be hiding, waiting to get off world. Yep. I'm glad they didn't make Obi-Wan do that, because I would have stopped watching there. And then Vader enters the scene. Yay! Oh wait, he's just randomly killing people now. Oh, cool. So that's the thing he does, is just he randomly kills 3 to 4 people to draw Obi-Wan out. And it kind of works. Obi-Wan is so scared to see him that he doesn't want to do it. But Vader picks up his Force trail and follows. And then begins a scene of Obi-Wan running around like a game of cat and mouse. And then the fight, there's one point where Obi-Wan's like looking around, and he goes all wide. He's like, I'm gonna go this way, and takes a good 5 seconds to run behind a pile of dirt. Would have been a little bit better if maybe there was a couple of hallways or a couple more piles of dirt where it was closer quarters, but you just look ridiculous when you go wide-eyed and you make the sudden decision like, ha, surprise! I'm gone. You know? But Vader catches up with him, obviously. And once again, the lightsabers are overly saturated in this super dark scene. Especially the blue. It looks like a flash, like a neon flashlight. And then very poor saber fight. And I get what they're going for. Obi-Wan isn't what he used to be fighting-wise, so Vader's just toying with him, but it still looks horrible. And then Vader traps Obi-Wan in a force hold that Obi-Wan cannot break out of for some reason, despite the fact that he's also a force user. And they're still going with the narrative that he can't use the force. He can't use the force because he's so emotionally damaged. But Vader lights like these fire coals or coals on fire or whatever, and says, now your pain has only just begun, or something like that, and puts Obi-Wan face first into the fire. And instead of screaming like anyone naturally would, he's just going, okay, is it up yet? Still going, And then Vader magically puts out the fire with the Force. And there's only a few burn marks, and I'm like, nothing major. I could lightly touch an oven door that's like 350 degrees, like very lightly touch it, like small graze. I can still get third-degree burns, and that shit will scar over. Obi-Wan gets slightly roasted for, 5 seconds. He has a couple of lines on him. Sure. But then Obi-Wan is magically saved because the coals are lit back on fire through a laser that the spy lady shoots again. But Vader somehow, or for some reason, does not put the fire out to get to Obi-Wan, and then he just stands there casually watching as Obi-Wan is saved. Yep. Vader, who also has a hate boner for Obi-Wan for a lot more reasons than Reva would, just stands idly by as his target is taken away to be saved in a Bacta tank. Oh no, but Leia's captured by Reva. Oh, the two main characters, they finally meet. What tension-filled adventures await us in the next episode? In the Fortress Inquisitus, where apparently Leia knows everything about the Proto-Rebellion. Just forget the fact that she only knows the name of the world that they're going to. Not everything. I believe ad-libbed line, because it's so quiet, where Talia and Obi-Wan are talking to the leader of this pseudo-rebellion, where Talia says she knows everything. I'm just thinking, she only knows one world. She doesn't know how you do it, when you do it, why you do it. She doesn't know every other world. She knows one world. Just take your people off, take them off of Jabin. Go to some other world that you clearly know you can go to. But no, Leia knows everything about the rebellion, apparently. And Reva, the ever so powerful Force user, in episode 2 used a Force read, that Force mind thing that Kylo does in The Force Awakens on Poe. She used that in episode 2 on someone, and that's how she found out what Obi-Wan and Leia was. So now she tries using it on Leia because, talking to her in a very threatening manner didn't work. But Leia goes, is this a staring contest? And Reva goes, you are indeed powerful and strong-willed. It's like she's a 10-year-old child. She is not trained in the Force. She would break. Poe was very strong-willed, if you remember in that series. He broke. And I'm sure this was Force power that was better, like more defined. Vader would have used that in episode 4. But Ben, they didn't have that kind of power back in episode 4. I don't care. The fact that apparently Reva, not just Reva, but like every Sith now apparently is going to be having these mind read powers. But then again, she is the bestest ever. Oh, I'm forgetting to mention, Leia openly admits that she's working with that a Jedi has been working with her. So you can pretty much forget her ever being a senator, and you can pretty much count on the Organas now being labeled as traitors because they would know that a Jedi came to get their daughter. So yeah, Senator Leia Organa no longer exists in the OT because that information is now recorded. Oh wait, they probably don't have cameras because Hollywood doesn't like cameras in interrogation rooms, you know? But because Leia is so strong-willed and Reva can't read her mind, she's going to be tortured. Because, you know, that's exactly what we need. But the entire time the interrogation is going on, Talia and Obi-Wan are getting into Fortress Inquisitus, where Talia, a section commander in some other sector, is somehow able to order her way into a highly secret facility that is not in her sector. That's even brought up that it's not in her sector. But all she's got to do is, do you need me to go talk to your commander, security boy? But as Talia is able to walk right in, Obi-Wan is swimming in. Because whatever. At this point with the writing, I was just like, okay, that's fine. Not really, but... So, Talia is talking to Obi-Wan through a communication link, and she's surrounded by other people. How do you write this? Why do you write this? She's surrounded by other people who can clearly hear her whispering into a comm device. But of course, she sacrifices her identity. She's the one who makes a sacrifice because she's the one who stops Reva from torturing Leia. And Reva somehow knows that she's a spy because Talia goes, well, I was in that sector and I was acting as a spy for you guys, but I couldn't compromise my position, so I couldn't tell anyone. And Reva's like, oh, so you're a spy. You're a bad guy. Torture her. Torture day. Yay. And Obi-Wan's lightsaber is summoned to a baseball bat because lights go out in the torture chamber. And all we see is the lightsaber bouncing off a stormtrooper armor, whereas they have gone through it before. Not once, but twice. It's so bad. And then, of course, because they're so incompetent, they get seen by a droid, and the droid's like, hey, they're over here, guys, over here, over here, over here. And a fight ensues. And when Obi-Wan is trying to escape and talking to Talia, Talia must escape her captors, 2 stormtroopers. How'd she do it? She lightly slaps one of the stormtroopers in the helmet, who gets dazed and confused. And then she gets her hand under the helmet of the other and pulls down. Like, the slap of the helmet, that was bad enough, but the fact that she's got her hand under the guy's helmet, is able to pull him to get to the blaster, it could have been shot better. Like, she could have gone for the legs and swept them. That would have made more sense and less laughable. But not as laughable as the escape itself. I'll get to that in just a minute. Because I know you guys heard, but whoo-hoo! But let's not forget as well that in the attempt at escaping the stormtrooper shooting and Obi-Wan's deflecting laser bolts, he deflects one into the glass that's underwater, which I don't know why you'd have glass in the water, but whatever. Especially since the ocean is this disgusting green screen. It pretty much looks like a green screen too, because the effects. But the window cracks, and now Obi-Wan has got to hold the pressure back from the ocean. If a single laser bolt is able to do that much damage to the point that the base is now compromised, the pressure from the ocean would have done that long ago. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that earlier in the episode they said that no one has dared enter or attack the fortress because no one would be that stupid, so it has no shields on it. Tell that to Kel Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order, where he literally has to lower the shields down. Did they not go by any other canon? They just say, hey, I'm gonna write whatever I want, and you have to deal with it because it's gonna be canon no matter what. Like, they just make everyone in this show either look like a dick, an ass, an idiot, or just plain incompetent. Because, I mean, God, they didn't make the stormtroopers any better. I think the stormtroopers from The Mandalorian were better than the ones in here. It's supposed to be the height of the Empire, too. Because in the fourth episode, there's 4 stormtroopers sitting across from Obi-Wan and Leia. And none of them know that Obi-Wan is their target Jedi. Obi-Wan, the legendary Jedi general, whose face was probably plastered everywhere. But yeah. So Obi-Wan is able to hold back the entire force of the ocean coming into the hallway he's in until Leia and Taya on the other side, and they start closing the door. And as soon as he lets go, he's able to outrun the ocean from consuming him in the hall. But let's not forget the most ridiculous scene in the entire series, probably in any movie that isn't a comedy. The 3 of them are able to escape because Obi-Wan puts on a long coat, a long officer's coat, and tucks Leia next to him. And nobody says a thing. Nobody goes, hey, I don't know that guy. He's got 4 legs and he's holding this huge tumor on his side. Maybe we should go ask him what that's about. Oh, the alarm's going off? Oh, okay. I guess everyone's on high alert still. Let's not stop and talk to these very obvious people who are not walking towards where the alarms are going. No, they're leaving. Let's not stop them. I mean, there's even an article that says that the actress who played young Leia said that this scene was the most ridiculous. How could anyone be this stupid? Let's ask the writers. Writers, do you have anything to say for this scene? Oh, you're not here in this imaginary hall I have? Okay, never mind. But yeah, who the fuck writes shit like this? I'm not a writer. Well, I'm not a very good writer. I wouldn't write shit like that unless it was a joke. Which it feels like these writers made this show a joke. Thank you, writers. Thank you, Disney, for approving this dog shit. Thank you for ruining Obi-Wan. But Reva sees right through this obvious facade. She's not tricked by the Jedi mind tricks of the coat. But it doesn't matter because Wade comes and saves them. Yes, a random character that's mentioned early in the episode, and I'm assuming his girlfriend, come in snowspeeders. That, I don't know where they came from, but whatever. Came in snowspeeders and saved them. But as they were escaping, oh no, Wade is killed! Cue the music and the sad face of the actress. And I'm just thinking, why do I care about Wade? Is it because he was supposedly a good guy and not just a background character? Okay. Yes, the music's telling me to feel sad, so I shall feel sad. But I feel more sad because Reva failed, and Darth Vader specifically told her, if she ever fails him again, he will kill her. Vader does not kill her, despite the fact that he is pissed. Literally comes storming in and yelling at her, saying she knew the consequences of failure. Has her in a force choke. But guess what? She doesn't die before her insolence, insubordination, killing the former Grand Inquisitor, I might add. And probably has been fighting within her own ranks the entire time, which don't know was encouraged or not. But she says, I put a tracker on their ship. They cannot escape us now. And Vader's like, oh, cool. I won't kill you then. And the third brother I think the third brother and I are in agreement. You can't do this. You have to kill her. Just take the tracking device or fob or whatever she's doing, having to track this thing, and go, okay, and just kill her. She's already fucked up so many times. But whatever, it's her show anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But in the start of the next episode, oh no, they're still mourning Wade. And I'm still trying to figure out why I need to care about Wade. Wade wasn't a character until the beginning of the first episode, or not the first episode, beginning of the previous episode, where it's just like, he's just mentioned. Okay, cool, I care about Wade now. Not because the music and the actors are saying I should care. But it's like, hey, we're finally ready to get going. When you could have been ready to get going months ago. But now, because the Empire is about to arrive, you're ready to go. Of course, great writing, guys. Great writing. And Reva is made Grand Inquisitor. Yay! She's made Grand Inquisitor because she killed the first one. And just jumped up plenty of positions. Whatever. And the tracker that Reva mentioned in the previous episode happens to be Leia's little toy droid, Lola. And we know it's an evil droid because the lights that were formerly blue, telling us she was a good droid, are now the evil red, because red is such an evil color. So the little toy droid locks down the entire facility somehow, because the toy droid knows exactly how to do that. And now it's a tense standoff. 2 squadrons of Imperial stormtroopers are outside a shoddily welded door, and the rebels can't escape because their one escape route is closed off, which is a hole in the ceiling. Because, Vader, who wants to kill Obi-Wan, and the Imperials who need to stop any insurrection from rising, just doesn't bomb the shit out of them with their massive Star Destroyer. But no, 2 squadrons of stormtroopers are sent, and Reva is yelling at them to shoot the door. Shoot the door! Fire! Fire! And in an effort to slow down the efforts, Obi-Wan talks to Reva. And this is the point where we find out Reva was one of the younglings in the very first scene of Order 66. And she was stabbed by Anakin/Vader. Yes, she was stabbed as a youngling by Anakin during Order 66. And she somehow lived. Let that sink in. A child was stabbed with a lightsaber and lived. None of the friends that she's now pissed off about that are dead survived. It was her because she played dead. Despite the fact that Anakin would have been wiping them all out, slicing and dicing. But she clearly remembers it was Anakin. Therefore, that's how she knows Anakin is Darth Vader. That's not a connection because there was news everywhere that Anakin died in the temple, which is semi-technically true with the Revenge of the Sith. So they probably got that a little bit right. But again, Anakin / Vader would have made sure anyone was dead. And if he didn't do the job, the stormtroopers that were with him would have. So, congratulations, you ruined Vader being a badass. Congratulations! Yay! But then she blames Obi-Wan for Vader and the death of her friends because he wasn't there. She literally hates Obi-Wan because he was in another system X amount of light years away and didn't stop Anakin. What's he going to do? Pick up the telephone and say, "Hey, Anakin, don't do it. Don't do it, Anakin." So, yeah. That's like me being out of town and my dog attacks someone. I didn't, and someone comes to me and says, "Hey, you didn't do anything to prevent this." It's like, I was out of town. I'm sorry. But of course, Reva just, again, very poorly written character. So, stormtroopers break through, and a huge battle ensues, where everyone's 2 feet from each other, and only the stormtroopers are getting hit. Like 1 or 2 rebels, maybe. But then Leia decides to help out with opening the space door, because she knows electronics and knows how to fix doors that she's never seen before. Because she was told it was a certain color output thing. But then her fight begins with her toy. Oh no! The toy's gonna beat her. Oh wait, no, she grabs on and there's a little chip that's on the wing and she pulls it off. And the droid is suddenly good again. Because we know it's good because of the lights. Yeah. Woot. But Taya, who's been with us in her droid, gets shot. And it's such an emotional scene because, I care about a droid at all. And would have cared more about Talia if I just, at this point, my brain was just like, I don't care. Like, seriously, I didn't care at this point. These characters just mean nothing to me because I'm being told that I must care for them, that I have to care for them. And of course, where they're going down, the dramatic, sad music is telling me I have to care about these characters dying. And I get she made a sacrifice to buy some more time, but again, I just didn't feel anything. So, Obi-Wan receives a message from Bail Organa because, Bail Organa desperately needs to get a hold of Obi-Wan again. Risking everything again. I don't get how people write these stories. And he hands his equipment off to the dude from episode 2 that Reva read his mind. I think his name is Bodger. And says, "Hold on to this stuff, I'll be back." And the rebel was like, "What are you going to do? We took all this time to save you. Now you're going to go out there?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to buy more time. Because I'm going to talk to the evil lady. And Vader is not going to do anything because he wants me. So I'm going to go buy time and talk to people. Because I have Taku no Jutsu. And of course, Reva and Obi-Wan create a deal. That Obi-Wan will draw Vader to her. Because not only Reva wants to kill Vader for her friends, but she still wants to kill Obi-Wan. Despite the fact that she's had plenty of opportunities to go after Vader now. Like, it could have been, okay, I defeated Vader, but I died, but I got Vader in the process. Cool. I win. Anyway, woohoo! Like, could have done that. But no, she has to wait to this very specific moment. And why, you ask? Well, because Obi-Wan says, he won't see you. He only will see me. Yeah. Right. He won't sense someone's trying to kill him behind him. Yeah, makes total sense, Obi-Wan. But of course, she agrees. Obi-Wan escapes when Vader gets down there. And Vader is so upset that he doesn't know that the escape ship that they're all on is a decoy. Because he pulls it down with the Force, rips it apart, and no one's in there. In the very last second, a second ship that was barely seen in the background of the previous shot is able to escape. Oh, not to mention that the Star Destroyer could start shooting. Oh, no, wait, the Star Destroyer is not there. Right. But don't worry, Reva is not going to screw this up by making herself known. And she lights her saber and then brings it over her head to strike. Yep. But I will say for the fight, it looks really cool. The choreograph's a little sloppy, but from what I understand with the way Vader was at that point, the way he was fighting was very accurate. He was using the Force a lot to deflect the saber, and he even breaks her saber in half, because Inquisitors have double-bladed sabers that look ridiculous, and tosses one half to her and keeps the other half. So he won't even draw his own weapon against her, which, from what I understand, is a huge insult, especially when he stabs her again. Darth Vader stabs her again, and we keep getting flashbacks. Like we're stupid. Like the writers think we're stupid. Of Anakin's Vader stabbing her. Anakin Vader stabbing her. And then Vader actually stabbing her. In the same spot. In the same way. As she was a kid. And then Vader says, your usefulness is over. But did you not think that I didn't know this entire time, youngling? What? He stabbed her 10 years ago, and he remembers this very specific person from 10 years ago. When even in the newer comics, when Vader and Luke face each other, Luke says, you killed my father. Vader says, you have to be more specific. I've killed a lot of fathers. Meaning everyone's just a fucking face to him. Why would he recognize this one specific person? Especially from 10 years ago. And of course, the Grand Inquisitor is still alive too, because, why would we ever stab anyone in this universe anymore when you could survive? You could probably get stabbed in the head and you'll live. Spinal cord ripped out. No, I'm fine. I'll walk it off. Like, if you're gonna do this and they get if you're gonna have in a series lightsabers that go through metal, melt metal, deflect energy, can deflect other lightsabers, you cannot have it where they enter an organic person's body and they just walk it off. Because, the human body is filled with internal organs that are very essential to our functionality as living beings. But in the escape process, Bodger drops the comm device with Bail Organa's message saying he's going to go talk to the I don't know why their names are escaping me, Beru and Owen, to check on Luke as well. And she now knows Luke is somehow important to this. So she decides to go visit Owen, Luke, and Beru to kill Luke. We don't know why. It's never explained. Apparently there are theories on it. But she just decides Luke needs to die. Despite the fact that she only knows a name. She might have met Owen before, but she doesn't know the connection between Vader and Luke and why he's so important. But also, the rebels cannot escape the Star Destroyer that suddenly decided to catch up with them. They're doing the snake maneuver to outrun the turbo lasers being fired at them. But let's not forget to mention, they are in space. Space. Empty space. You know, the space where there's nothing around them for many, many, many light years. Space. You can move around. You can go up and down, sideways, diagonally even. You can even go backwards. Did you know that, guys? Did you know in space you can do pretty much any maneuver you want because you're in space where there's nothing around you? So if you're being chased by a bigger ship, all you got to do is, I don't know, go under them and then go backward, like go back to where you came. And by the time they're able to turn around to catch up to you, you could be doing laps around them. Shocker! But no, we're going to do the highly advanced snake maneuver that we keep getting hit from. And Obi-Wan pretty much says, hey, I'm going to draw Vader out. Therefore, you guys can escape because Vader isn't going to send a single ship after me or a squadron of TIE fighters or anything like that, and he won't shoot you guys down. No. Vader will bring the entire Star Destroyer to follow me, a singular person in a small escape craft that has no guns, no shields, no light boosters, light speed engines, sorry. And he's going to let you guys escape, so don't worry. I'm going to go now. Oh, Leia, go home. Get home safe. And that's exactly what happens. Vader literally lets the young rebellion escape because he's got a hate boner for Obi-Wan. And he must dedicate an entire Star Destroyer to Obi-Wan instead of just a few ships and himself. I'm pausing to let my brain just not fry again. So now begins the epic showdown between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, fully fresh and recovered, and is able to use the Force again because he no longer has any doubts. And Vader walks up to Obi-Wan, who's just standing there doing nothing, and he says, have you come to destroy me? Vader, you're the one who came to him. He didn't come to you. You went to him. He didn't come here to destroy you. He waited for you. He drew you and your entire Star Destroyer to this very planet. The line should have been, I came here to destroy you. Not have you come to destroy me. I have come to destroy you. See, that would have been so much better. Oh, shocker. Someone who can't write is telling writers how to write. Oh. But, once again, oversaturated, overly bright lights in an overly dark arena makes it really hurt. Made my eyes hurt. Music's not epic at all, so I didn't feel any tension. And they're intercutting this with Reva going to the Owen's. I'm just gonna say Owen's farm. Going to Owen's farm, and Owen, being the smart man that he is, says, "Hey, we got this Sith Inquisitor coming after us. We need to leave and hide." and wait, because we know Obi-Wan's going to eventually be coming back, so he can handle her. So, Beru, Luke, get your shit. Let's leave for a couple of days. And they're trying to make Beru a badass now by saying, no, we're going to stay and fight. Take these laser weapons that we know lightsabers can deflect, and we're facing a Sith Inquisitor who's pissed, who has the Force and a weapon that can deflect these lasers. We're going to stay here and fight with these laser weapons, okay? Good. And I know exactly when she'll come too, so don't worry. We could spend all day to prep. Cut to, they're just prepping now, and it's already nightfall. Oh, and of course, Reva shows up at night, exactly when Beru says she would. And these two farmers, who are probably more experienced fighting Tusken Raiders, are able to hold off a Sith Inquisitor. And no one is able to hurt her because she's already injured and punches her stabby wound. But she doesn't kill them, no. You know why? Because they're in episode 4. And Luke is able to run away. And once again, a 10-year-old is able to outrun a fully grown adult. I don't care if you're injured or not. A fully grown adult can catch up to a 10-year-old. But cut back to Obi-Wan and Vader's fight. It's basically an anime sword fight at this point. Like, it's just... Obi-Wan has always been physically weaker than Anakin. Not as strong in the Force as Anakin. And I think the only qualification that Obi-Wan had better skills than Anakin in the Force or in combat. But that doesn't mean when Anakin got his limbs chopped off and was robots that anything has changed. If anything, Vader became stronger. Because you could put more force behind metal and not worry about hurting yourself. Even if he hurts himself, the Sith thrive off of pain. So, yeah. Obi-Wan should not have been able to be as forceful with a saber or physically in this fight as he was. There's a point where he even smacks the lightsaber and Vader's like, ah! And stumbles backwards. That shouldn't happen. And Vader notices that Obi-Wan's strength has returned, but the weakness remains. Okay, cool. That was not intimidating or scary in any way, shape, or form. But Obi-Wan gets knocked. Yeah, a hole is made because Vader uses the Force to create a cave, which I thought was neat. I don't think that would have likely happened before, but I thought it was neat. And then throws a bunch of rocks on Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan has to hold it up. And Vader leaves, not making sure Obi-Wan's actually dead. But you know what inspires Obi-Wan to get more powerful again? Because again, this is an anime fight, and there's always a second phase. It's the adventure he just had with Leia. Leia! Despite the fact that he's supposed to be protecting Luke. Oh, we'll put Luke in there for 1 second. And that's when he gets a second wind. His final form has awakened. And this next half of the fight gets even more ridiculous because now Obi-Wan is better than Vader in every way, shape, and form. He's even able to pick up a bunch of rocks and throw it at him like a tornado. Despite the fact that no one has ever done that before. And it looks ridiculous. And then he uses the hilt of his lightsaber to smash Vader's life support systems. Because, George Lucas said that he wanted lightsaber combat to be more elegant, not just this smash shit together. And nope, take that out. Throw it out. Just smash it with the hilt of his lightsaber. Not mention that you could destroy your saber in the process. And then they rip off their own IPs yet again. Because Obi-Wan cuts Vader's helmet in half, revealing Anakin underneath. Oh no! This is from Rebels, when Ahsoka was able to do it by sheer luck. Because Vader was distracted. And even then, I was like, oh, ugh. But I will say this, because Vader is utterly defeated and humiliated now. He's not able to fight back. How did we go from this ultimate badass that never lost a fight at all? No one would dare stand up to him, question him, or anything like that. Like maybe Boba Fett took a risk in The Empire Strikes Back, but Vader was very specific that Luke was to be taken alive, and that if Han Solo died in the carbonite freezing, which is another retcon, that the Empire would compensate Bubba. And that pretty much said, don't fuck with me. You're going to get your money no matter what. But nobody stood up to Vader. Even Yoda and Obi-Wan in the OT was like, hey, we can't beat him. So, yeah. You took this badass, and now he basically is losing every fight he's in. He was more intimidating in Jedi Fallen Order, and because you couldn't beat him, you couldn't even fight him. The only reason Cal Kestis was able to escape him was because they literally brought down the ocean on him. These shows don't do him justice. He got beat by Ahsoka, and again, I believe that was just sheer luck. Well, written to be luck, but this show is just, he has to be beaten. Because how do you explain Obi-Wan leaving and going back to Tatooine if he's facing Vader now? Oh, Vader's got to lose. Okay, so make him look like he's not badass, that he's not the most powerful Force user out there. But another sin on Obi-Wan. He has an opportunity to kill Vader again. He just walks away and says, goodbye, Darth. Going back to how Obi-Wan in New Hope called Anakin Darth. His pupil, Darth. And Obi-Wan, and Vader does the yell, Obi-Wan! And it's supposed to be sad and tragic, but, Ooh, an hour and 15 minutes. Whew. Cut some of this down, hopefully. But now Obi-Wan realizes he needs to get his ass back to Tatooine because he senses Luke is in danger. Because he is. Because Reva has him knocked out. Has her lightsaber ready to strike. Can she do it? Well, no, because we know he's the hero of the original trilogy, so... He lives simply because she sees her and him as a child. She cannot strike herself down and become Vader. How do we know this? Because the writers continue to think we're idiots. Because they literally have it flashing back and forth between her, Luke, young Reva, Anakin, young Reva, Luke. It's just like, all they had to do was show the hesitation. Anyone with 2 brain cells would have figured, oh, she sees herself in him. We don't need the flashing for 30 seconds between different characters of what happened 10 years ago. We get it, editors, writers. We're not stupid. I'm sure a 5-year-old child would have been able to figure that out. But she returns Luke to Owen and Beru, and Obi-Wan stays behind to make sure everything's okay. And she's bawling. She couldn't do it. She couldn't take revenge on this boy that she knows nothing about. Ah! And Ben says, no, you did good. You're fine. You just got to redeem yourself now. Walk towards the light. And she just leaves. She drops her Inquisitor lightsaber in the sand, too. But she just walks away. Because, Obi-Wan doesn't ever put down any bad guys who are a threat or a potential threat. Nope, Reva lives because she spared one person, despite the fact that she's been an Inquisitor for 10 years and it's probably done pretty horrible shit, like torturing a child? Oh, no, she's redeemed because she saved that child's brother that she put in the corner. Okay. And then they try to wrap everything up, basically saying with Obi-Wan going back to Leia, risking his identity again. And they don't say anything about why Leia in Episode 4 wouldn't care that Obi-Wan was killed, despite the fact that they spent this adventure together. Yeah, so I don't know what the writers were thinking. It's like, hey, I'm going to erase your memories now because you can't know about what happened. Like, do that. That way it would make more sense of why she doesn't mourn his death in Episode 4. And yes, I know her planet got blown up. And compared to one person. But if they were really good friends, there would be a better explanation than, oh, he died. Okay. I'm going to put a blanket on you, Luke. Owen lets Obi-Wan see Luke for the first time and he does his hello there line. And as he's leaving, Qui-Gon Jinn finally shows up and says, well, let's go. Your training's not done. And they're trying to say it's because of his depression. He cut himself off from the Force, therefore Qui-Gon couldn't show up before. Not because Liam Neeson didn't want to be in the show at all, but Disney had to give him a lot of money. And that's basically it. That's basically Kenobi. I don't recommend watching this unless you want to rot your brain cells. If you're a new fan for Star Wars, go on ahead. I don't care at this point. If you like it, that's perfectly fine with me. I can't get over the writing aspects. Like, if this was a different character, if this was not Obi-Wan, maybe I would say, okay, I can get on board. But because it is Obi-Wan, one of the huge characters in all of Star Wars, that has already had so much backstory. You have the original trilogy to go off of. You have the prequel trilogy to go off. To write this character like you've never seen any of that, it's slightly insulting to the character, in my opinion. So, how would I fix this show? Well, few easy steps. The big one for me is the time. I will not set this show 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. I would set this show 2 to 5 years at most afterwards. That way it makes a little more sense for Obi-Wan's PTSD depression. Because at the end of the Revenge of the Sith, Yoda says, hey, I can teach you how to talk to Qui-Gon. That way you can keep your training going. So therefore, you would think for a few more years, Qui-Gon would be showing or teaching Obi-Wan how to be a better Jedi and all that. Especially given how he is in A New Hope. But because it's 10 years later, he's still in this depressed PTSD, cut himself off the Force, can't do anything state. It makes no sense. Other than the actors look 10 years older or whatever. So, that would be the biggest change. I would make this only a few years later. Have the Inquisitors be a brand new organization that is just being released, quote unquote, publicly, and they're not able to use their authority as fluently as they do in the show. They're not as scary. So when you go to Tatooine and everyone's like, who the hell are these guys? Why should we care about them? When they say we hunt Jedi, and it's like, there's no Jedi around here. Like, make it more believable. So, and then with the PTSD, depression, make it a more prominent point in the show. Like, have him training for a few years, and then when the show begins, he's having these depression, PTSD nightmares. That's when his Force ability, his connection to the Force, is cut, and Qui-Gon is no longer there to help him. And that's when he gets more and more depressed. Like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do this anymore without Qui-Gon, because I failed him before, and I'm failing him again. But with that, you can also explain why he has to hide more carefully. Like, he has to be able to blend in, not be as recognizable. Like, have his hair like super long, his beard is super long, and like do that Forrest Gump thing. Like, people look at him, they don't think Obi-Wan, they think, oh, another bum. But going into Obi-Wan himself with like the PTSD, I would have it where not only would he be able to eventually know that he cut himself off the Force, but he would learn how to do it, which would explain how he's able to hide from Vader. Because the joke is he went to Tatooine because Vader doesn't like sand. But it could be that because there's no Force, there's no powerful Force presence on Tatooine. That could have been something he learned either through his depression and how he was able to do it, or something Qui-Gon showed him how to do. And then he became depressed, kind of thing. Like, have Owen go, well, why hasn't the Imperials showed up yet? We know you Jedi can sense each other. Say, well, I learned how to distance myself from the Force, something like that. And then throughout the show, when he gets out of his depression, his stupor, he's back to form, and he's able to use the Force as he was before, but sparingly, so he's able to hide. For Reva, obviously with the timeline, I would make with this show, she wouldn't be in it. I think that would be the best option. Because again, her character is so poorly written, the motivations aren't there, and there's no emotional tie for us. All we know is that she's evil, and then a couple times throughout the show, she shows to be hesitant to do stuff. Or she's just outright trying to get to Kenobi and was doing whatever it takes to get to him. If she had her own show before this, or after this, well, it would be after this at this point, but she had her own show, well-written show, you could explore her history. You could explore how she was actually able to get out of the temple. Like, after Anakin stabbed her, maybe she did actually die, but she came back to life after, I don't know, being dumped in a corpse pile or something like that. Just have her explain how she survived quickly. Don't focus on it. And then have it throughout her, quote-unquote, training she starts falling to the dark side because she's filled with hate, anger, wanting for revenge, and figure out how she would know Anakin is Vader, like through some rumors, or she's able to sneak back into the temple and finds out, and then decides the best way to get to him is through the Inquisitor program and such like that. And then if you have a season 2 of Obi-Wan / Reva, you could have her redemption arc where she meets Obi-Wan on Tatooine, and they have like the Rebels, Darth Maul, Obi-Wan meetup where he tries to talk her down, he tries to show her that what she's doing is wrong, and is able to redeem herself. Like, something to that effect. Like, just throwing her in, making her the main character in someone else's show doesn't work. It makes audiences who look at it like this not like her. And the same thing with the Leia storyline. Because it would be 2 to 5 years, I wouldn't have the Leia storyline in this. I think it was ridiculous. I think the fact that Reva was able to find out that Bail Organa knew Obi-Wan, and that this was the only way to draw Obi-Wan out by kidnapping the daughter, by kidnapping Leia, was the best move to bring Obi-Wan out, was dumb. Like, yes, he worked with her. Obi-Wan worked with Organas. A lot of people worked with Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. So just to suddenly conclude that kidnapped daughter Obi-Wan will come out was dumb. Plus, if she was able to figure out Anakin was Vader, she would have been able to figure out that Leia and Luke were his children somehow. But, oh well, the writers didn't want to do it that way. So now I'm going to cut to Vader. How would I fix Vader in this one? Well, what if he's still getting used to his body? Or if he's used to his body at this point, what if this is his uphill momentum to being in his prime, where, like, he is already known, he's already feared, nobody wants to stand up to him. You want him to be the badass. But he still wants to get Obi-Wan back. He wants to get back at Obi-Wan for what happened to him. You can still have that. That's why making it 10 years later doesn't make sense to me. After 10 years, I don't care if you're Sith or whatever and you hold on to hate, 10 years is a long fucking time to go, I want to kill Obi-Wan. Where is he? Find him! Spend next 10 years to find him! Like when people say, I don't care if it takes me my entire life to find them, I will find them. It's such a dumb cliche. It's such a dumb saying because it's like, okay. Hey boss, remember that person from 5 years ago? Who? Oh, okay, never mind. So, if you have it 2 to 5 years at most, it makes more sense why Vader would hate him. Or would still want to get revenge to show Obi-Wan that he's still better, that he's better than him. And then have the flashbacks of him and Obi-Wan being really good friends still haunting him. And then when, like, the episode before they meet or do the final fight, just have the scene where they're on Mustafar ready to face off with each other. Have that. It's like, you'd have it where he's still semi-conflicted with Obi-Wan. Not super conflicted because he still hates him because what he did, and we know Anakin. But just be like, he was my brother. He was my mentor kind of thing. I don't know, I could just be trying to do filler like these idiots did. These writers did. But then we come to the big final fight between Vader and Obi-Wan that had quote unquote had to happen. Ultimately, I would say Vader would be toying with Obi-Wan, because I don't care how powerful you say Obi-Wan is, Vader is still more powerful than him. That's why in episode 4, the original trilogy, it was Luke who had to face Vader. It couldn't be Obi-Wan or Yoda, because they knew they couldn't fight him. They couldn't stand a chance against him. That's why it had to be Luke. Luke was still able to learn. Luke was still very powerful in the Force. But it was his son, too. So, yeah, I think Vader should have been toying with him, and ultimately he would win, no matter what. And the fight could end where Vader thinks he's killed Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan knows how to cut himself off from the Force. He's able to hide. Now, it would be stupid. It still would be stupid that Vader would not check to see if he was dead, but the confirmation with the lack of Force, the slow decline of it, like someone would be dying, would be enough. And he would pretty much say, "Yeah, I beat you. My former master, or my old master," something like that. And as he's leaving, Obi-Wan would ultimately say, "Anakin is truly dead. Goodbye, Darth," or something like that, or "See you later, Darth," or whatever. And you can have your line of why he calls him Darth now. But in the end, it would be Obi-Wan ultimately realizes he cannot win. He cannot do this. No matter how powerful he thinks he can be, he cannot do it. And afterwards, that's when he returns to Tatooine and becomes like the old T. Ben, the original trilogy Obi-Wan. So that's kind of how I would do it. I wouldn't do this back and forth anime fight shit. I mean, shit. I mean, you could do it like the Empire Strikes Back fight, where Obi-Wan is doing what he can with the lightsaber, a couple Force powers here and there, but ultimately Vader is toying with him. He could even have it where Vader ends up throwing boxes at him. And that's how he's able to hide, because he's either buried by boxes or, well, not buried by boxes, but buried by debris of some sort, or have him fighting on a Bespin-like world. And it looks like he fell out. So, the overall plot for my fix, again, it's not a perfect fix, because I'm not the greatest writer out there, but I would have it where Obi-Wan is continuing his training with Qui-Gon as a Force ghost. Or it could be that his depression has taken over and the ghost is no longer able to appear because of it. So, quick notes. Even after knowing Yoda told him to watch Luke and wait for the day to train him, Obi-Wan begins to have doubts and remember when Anakin was a student. So, not only would you have flashes of Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting on Mustafar, like the dark, depressing moments, but you could also have it where he and Anakin are being best buds. They're in the Clone Wars, being themselves, joking, and having a good time. And he's slowly losing his will to be a Jedi, or what it means to be a Jedi, because he failed the galaxy to stop Vader the first time when he should have. But he's able to hide a little bit better, or he's learning to hide better from everyone. And everyone thinks he's just a coward, and he avoids all conflict no matter what. He's not the stoic general he once was. You can even show someone getting beat up in the streets, and he just kind of watches and looks away, like he just can't do it anymore. Until one day, another Jedi shows up on Tatooine. This Jedi doesn't know Obi-Wan's there. He's there running away from the brand new organization called the Inquisitors, the Jedi Hunters. And he pretty much he kind of knows who Obi-Wan is. And they meet, and Obi-Wan gives him advice that says, hey, you need to leave. You cannot be here. There's something more important than you could ever imagine. But the Jedi doesn't listen. And he almost exposes them both several times. And then the Inquisitors show up because the Jedi does something stupid. He does expose himself by saving someone with a Force or something like that. Now, the Jedi who's been running from them knows who they are, and he decides to make an escape. Obi-Wan, fearing that they know who he is, decides to go with him. Before he does, he needs to tell Owen that he's leaving, but he will be back, and that it's a promise. Owen could be like, we don't need you here. In fact, your presence is putting us in danger. Just leave. Like, I know a couple panels I've seen, Owen doesn't like Ben or Obi-Wan at all. And also from the OT, Owen says that Ben is just an old wizard that lives by himself. Don't bother him. So it's clear that the setup to make Ben hate Obi-Wan and Owen not like each other has to be set up. So this could be it. Where Owen says, hey, I don't care. Just leave. Stay out of our lives. We'll be fine without you. So, again, he knows that he needs to watch Luke, but he also needs to stay alive to keep Luke protected. So this Jedi friend and Obi-Wan leaves, and they can have some misadventures or whatever. I don't know how I feel in every episode or something like that, but they would leave, the Inquisitors would follow. But it would be to the point where the Inquisitors are failing to catch Obi-Wan and this Jedi that Vader himself eventually shows up. Or is informed that someone who looks like Obi-Wan is there. And that's where his interest is piqued. And we can also have the flashes of the Clone Wars with him, their fight on Mustafar and all that. So at some point, the Jedi and Obi-Wan get trapped on some world, like a Bespin-style world or something like that. And it could be the final episode where the three of them, the Vader, the Jedi, and Obi-Wan, all in the same area. They meet up. And the Jedi would obviously have to die. And Obi-Wan and Vader would have their ultimate fight, which I already described earlier. So, Vader thinks he's beaten Obi-Wan once and for all, leaves, and Obi-Wan vows to one day renews his vows, basically. Make sure Luke is trained and ready to face Vader when the days come. And then you can have Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon reappear and goes, well done, my Padawan. Let's continue your training. Or something like that. So, like I said, that's kind of how I would do it. It's not a great fix. It's not a perfect fix, I know. But I think it would have been better than what we got, in my humbled opinion. So, enough of me ragging on Star Wars for today. There's plenty of other opportunities for me to do that. I do plan to watch Andor soon. I don't think I'm going to do a how I would fix on that one. Since that one, as far as I'm aware, is not destroying characters that we already know. It might destroy, I say that with Rogue One not in mind, but no legacy characters, I guess. Because Obi-Wan, or the Kenobi show, really destroyed pretty much every legacy character and any potential for Reva to be a good character, in my opinion. So, with that, thank you guys for listening. May the Force be with you, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.